Hello, I'm Taj Greenlee, Associate Director of 92Y Talks. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our event, NBC's Good Girls, Christina Hendricks in conversation with Matthew Weiner. We're thrilled to host Emmy-nominated actress Christina Hendricks to celebrate her outstanding performance in NBC's hit series Good Girls, now in its fourth season. Good Girls follows suburban moms Beth, Christina Hendricks, Ruby, Retta, and Annie, Mae Whitman, who, at a loss over how to solve their various crippling financial troubles, decide to rob a supermarket in a heist that attracts the attention of a local gang leader. Good Girls returns Thursday, June 24th on NBC at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Six-time Emmy-nominated actress Christina Hendricks is our featured guest. She is most recognizable for her iconic role of Joan Holloway in the Emmy Award-winning hit AMC series Mad Men. Recently, she had one of the leads in the Academy Award winner Toy Story 4 for Disney Pixar. Our moderator is nine-time Emmy Award winner Matthew Weiner, whose most recent series, The Romanoffs, launched on Amazon Prime Video. The Romanoffs was created, written, directed, and executive produced by Weiner, featuring 8 separate stories about people who believe themselves to be descendants of the Russian royal family. Weiner's previous credits include as creator, executive producer, writer, and director on the acclaimed drama Mad Men. That series premiered in 2007, joining an elite group in 2011 when it became only the 4th drama to be awarded 4 consecutive Emmy Awards for Outstanding Drama Series. In addition, Mad Men was Emmy-nominated for Outstanding Drama Series consecutively from 2008 to 2015 and received an overall total of 116 Emmy nominations. As always, we deeply appreciate your patronage and thanks again for joining us for this very special 92Y event, NBC's Good Girls. Christina Hendricks in conversation with Matthew Weiner. Thanks for joining.
Hi.
Hi.
We're here to talk about Good Girls, but we're really here to talk about your whole career. And I've been lucky enough to work with you for part of it, 2 projects now, one of which was 8 years and one of which was 2 months. But I wanted to ask you, first of all, I kind of have like a lot of sort of long-term career questions to ask for you, but I also want to ask you immediately, like, what attracted you to Beth? What made you want to play that part?
Well, it's a big decision after Mad Men to decide to do another show in general. And I think I was doing films and doing limited series things and stuff that I wasn't, I knew I wasn't making a big commitment. I was able to play around and try different characters and do some things. So when I was approached with Good Girls, I thought, okay, I don't think I'm ready to like hunker down into something new that could potentially be like, you never know. It could be 6 months. It could be 6 years. It could be 16. You don't know. So I was ready and prepared to turn it down, and I didn't want it. And the script was so.
And I can close her ears.
It was just so different and weird. And a lot of people already know this, but the pilot was shot with a different actress. And I got the rare opportunity to watch the pilot. So that way I got to know the tone and what the performances were. And like, sort of, you don't always get to see what's on the page come to life. So I sat and watched this pilot and I went, oh, damn it. This is really good. This is really good.
Were you wondering what you were going to, I mean, there's so many questions here. First of all, I think that people may not know that when you sign on to a series, you make a contractual commitment to be in that job for 5 years, I think right away, or 6 even, if it goes. So you're really talking about, for an actor, it's both security, but it's also can be, a trap. So that's what you were talking about, sort of like a commitment for that, because it sounds great, but it also could be terrible.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you read a script and it's like the house is burning down and you're in a sword fight and you're like, what a great script. And you have to stop and go, oh, but I have to do that stuff. I don't just get to read it. I have to do it once I sign on to it. So you can enjoy a pilot script and say, oh, that would be fun to do. But you go, do I want to be this person for 6 years? And after watching that pilot oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, I interrupted you before, but what were you going to say when you watched it? You
have to say, can I put myself in this space, in this mindset, in this environment for 6 years? I have to make that decision. And I mean, no one can possibly know what's going to come at you, but with the information given. And I thought, you know what? I love this weird balance of drama and absurd, weird humor. I feel like that's who I am. I feel like it was very like a very talky, easy, jokey, like I am with my girlfriends. And I thought this could be really fun. And then I saw the performances and they were just so good. And I thought, yeah, I want to do it. I really do. I want to do it.
I don't know if this is, I'm just personally curious. Were you watching that other person's performance and being like, what do I do differently? Like, how would I do this? Or are you like, I mean, I know people do a remake a lot of times and you hear like, they're going to remake the Thomas Crown Affair and they're like, I didn't want to see the original. I don't want to know what Steve McQueen did. I mean, it's got to influence you.
Yeah, she was really good. And they decided to recast for various different reasons why studios do things. You can never get behind. You don't even want to know what goes on behind the doors. But I wanted to watch it once and then not watch it because she was really good. And I didn't want to copy her or, have her performance stuck in my mind because I wanted to make it my own and just bring my own version of it. And so I did try to forget, but she was fantastic, honestly.
Okay, so I love this idea about being this person and the tone of it and the mix of comedy and drama and so forth. Were you actually thinking in terms of, one of the things I told you right away that I loved about the pilot and the first season especially is it's one of the few things that I saw, and especially at this time, that is actually about money and about people not having enough money. And there's a kind of, obviously, there's a bit of a wish fulfillment, but there's also this turn that happens right in the first season, I think, with Dean when he thinks that she's suffering to provide for the family, and she's kind of like, no, actually, I get off on this. And so there's almost like this journey to her expression of her, I would say it's powerlessness, but I would say it's criminality. But do you believe that everybody has that in them? Was that part of it, that she was a little bit of a badass, or that she was a reluctant criminal, desperate?
I think it is more, and you and I have discussed this about how every show sort of needs a bit of fantasy. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to misquote you, but I know we've discussed that, and I think early on people responded to it like, yeah, female empowerment, like, and I was like, she's committing crimes. And, it's not, I wouldn't recommend this, but I think what it is like you said, people can relate to sort of the financial problems and feeling stuck and trapped. And then it leads you into the fantasy of, but if I could just go in and knock off one grocery store, and you know what, I'd have my sister on one side and my best friend on the other, and we'd go in together, guns blazing, and everyone's like, yeah. And it had that feeling of like, it's going to be a romp. But it's coming from a real place. So people related to it as well. And then you get to go on this sort of like acting out, if you will.
And she's trapped. The thing that they've done a great job of, and I salute the writing team, of maintaining a kind of tension where, I'm really into unsolvable problems in drama. Like, I don't want to know, like, well, all you have to do is X. And even if you are told, all you have to do is go get some more money, and then the money turns out to be fake, that's my favorite kind of thing. It's like where there's a problem. Or I told you, I was hooked into the show. It took me a while. I was working, I think, when the show actually came out. But there was a pretty deep place in the first season. And I'm actually caught up. And I kind of, the evolution of what happened and the kind of, I mean, Rio is like, there feels like, I feel more like someone really, I guess because someone already did get killed, but I really get this feeling that the violent part of it has come to the surface in a very believable way, where I actually feel afraid. And I know on the one hand, you know, we have this expression schmuck bait, which is, you know, we would talk about it. They're like, what if Don gets fired? I'm like, everybody knows Don's going to be here next week.
Right.
You know, it's not going to happen, you know? So, but I do like that sense of danger, and I do identify with their powerlessness. And if I can go back to you talking about putting your spin on it, what do you think? And I know you as a person, I know you not as Joan, and from before Joan, you know, I mean, in that moment of making the pilot, but what do you think it is that you're bringing from the inside that is you to this woman? What do you think that I mean, maybe you can't articulate it, but there is something there that I always feel like there's this extra level of reality, and I don't know how that works.
Yeah, you know, because of Joan and the way that you wrote Joan, people have come to me and said, oh, in your career, you've played very strong women, very strong characters. And I don't know that it always maybe starts out with that description on the page. But to me, everyone's always trying to find a solution to their problems, right? You're constantly trying to figure it out. Whether you fail, there's still that internal, like, how can I fix it kind of thing. And I think even in your, you know, more pathetic moments or something, and maybe it's because I moved around a lot and had to fit in instantly or something, there's a lot of observing the best way to get out of something, or the best way to slide in. So I guess I'm constantly thinking as the character, where do they want to get, or how, you know, how are they problem solving? But then I can still only say the words that are on the page.
Right.
That sounds convoluted.
No, it's not. It's what we've talked about this. This is what I don't know if people, there's two things you brought up that I want to talk about. Number one, I want to talk about your genesis and your childhood and what you think that gave you for the unique qualifications to this job. The amount of people that I've hired, I'd say, no exaggeration, 15 to 20% of the actors that come in to even just read are Army brats who moved every year. That's one thing. And you have that, you were not an Army brat, but you have that thing. But the other thing is that you are given the words on the page, but I can just say from personal experience, I had, and not to knock anybody else, but I had, I'm not kidding, 100 people read for Joan. And she was not supposed to be a series regular. I think I've said this in the past. She was supposed to be sort of a piece of exposition in the pilot, so that Peggy would get shown around and I wouldn't have to tell everybody what it was. Joan would be telling Peggy. And when you walked in, you gave all this other quality to it, to her character, that was not on the page, with the same words as everybody else. And frankly, a lot of it was kind of nasty and kind of judgmental and kind of honest, like high status, if we you know, acting wise. And I always think about that. Remember we watched the auditions right before the show ended, and you looked at me, you go, what? I go, what did you see? And you said, I saw someone who really needed a job. And I was like, you know what? You were the most confident, snarky. And all of a sudden I walked out of your audition, not only knowing that I wanted you to do it, but also thinking like, wait a minute, Joan and Peggy aren't friends. This is something I never thought of. You brought that to it.
Well, I think, you know, specifically for Mad Men, and that audition is, you know, you get one script and you get a certain amount of clues. And I think Joan was in 3 scenes in the pilot. So I just took all the clues that I had. One, she is she's walking the new girl around. So she's obviously the boss. Of the women. So I know that. I know that she's very, very confident in talking about her sexuality because 2 coworkers walk by and she goes, if you do things right, or you'll make a mistake like that one. Okay. So you're talking about sex in the office to a brand new person on day 1. To me, that's confident or insecure. I'm not sure yet. And I've known people who need to they act like they're doing something really nice for you. And they do want to do something nice, but they want the credit. They want to make sure that everyone knows that they gave you the birthday present.
I think
that it was their idea. And those are the things that I got from Joan. So I just thought, okay, so she's confident, she's open, she's sexual, and she seems bossy. And she wants credit. So those were my clues, and that's what I came in with. So it wasn't just that I'm snarky and bitchy.
No. I don't.
I'm not saying these. I'm just joking with you. I'm joking with you. But to me, it was me trying to find those clues, and then I think, she evolved so greatly. And you and I had discussions along the way, sort of like, oh no, is Joan like this? Is she like this? No, she's finding her way, or, she thinks she's helpful. She's not,
yes, but all is positive and negative, which is what I was saying. Because when you write the pilot, part of the pilot was sort of saying, these are real people, you're going to recognize them. And to me, Joan was someone, like a lot of these characters, people compared the show to old movies. And I said, no, it's like we are now. They're acting like the movies they saw, not the other way around. They're like, oh, Betty Draper is like a Douglas Sirk character. I'm like, no, Betty Draper watches Douglas Sirk. She sees that tragedy in her life. It's not real. It's look, I grew up, this is not dating myself, and anyway, my age is public, but like Richard Gere was in American Gigolo when I was in high school, and everybody had a knit tie and was trying to do upside down sit-ups on a bar in their living room right afterwards, and trying to act like Richard Gere, which meant not talking and just staring. And you sort of think like, could you socialize an entire generation? Well, how many people my parents' age wanted to look like Marlon Brando or act like Marlon Brando? So, and in whatever form he was in, be immediate, be tough, be whatever. So let's go back to I have to also say this about Good Girls. Who knows, because I've been backstage in many places in my life. You guys really do look like you like each other and like you're having a lot of fun. And there's a triumvirate there with Retta and Annie. I mean, I don't know who feels more like your sister sometimes when I watch the show. And there's just kind of like a shorthand that I think is based on, like you said, on kind of like realistic humor, teasing, intolerance, flashes of anger. It's written in that there are opportunities to behave the way we behave with the people we really, really know. Please tell me, and everybody here, that is fun.
It is so fun. And I think Retta said something early on. She's like, I like scenes where best friends are mad at each other and salty. And like, she's like, my friends, we get that way. You're friends with someone for that long. It's not always like, come here. Like sometimes it's like, are you serious right now? And I think that the dynamic of those characters is that they all know each other's faults and they all catch each other when they need to catch each other, but they're also going to eye roll at you when you do that stupid thing again. And it's like, it's realistic,
mistakes.
Yeah. You're just like, oh God, Annie's going to say this again. And like I've spoken a lot about is, when you get to be on a series for a certain amount of seasons, every season the character gets richer, and because their history grows with the other characters. And so me as an actress, Christina walks on set. I know how Beth is going to act because I've been playing Beth for a certain amount of time, and also because this script informs me. But I also know how my sister, Beth's sister Annie, is going to act, because I've now known her for this long and we've had moments and encounters. And I know when she gets scared, she acts this way. And I know when my best friend gets, angry she acts this way. And yes, we're acting, but there is nurturing within our own personal nature too that bleeds over, and you can't help but feel it, I think, as an audience.
I think as an audience member too, there's been a lot of surprises in your marriage, in the character with Dean. There have been so many moments where I've expected it to, I guess he could have been such a boob and a doormat and a rageaholic, and he is, when trapped, he's pretty vulnerable and strangely respectful. And I'm intrigued by the fact that he gets to express that he needs something that is not, how come we didn't have sex last night and where's my dinner? And it looked like it was going that way.
People love to hate Dean. They just want to hate him so much. And it's just not that simple.
I don't.
No, and I love the Beth Dean relationship because it is so complicated. And okay, in the pilot, he cheated on her. And
that's why they still hate him, by the way.
They'll hate him forever.
Yes.
They'll hate him forever for that. But Beth has done some effed up stuff.
Yes.
Like crazy. And at the end of the day, and you know, it's hard to do flashback scenes, and it's hard to, you know, I think they cast some really great actors to play young us.
Yeah.
And when you see, okay, he's had her back since back in the day. Their life didn't start with his head between someone else's legs. That's not when their life began. That's when the audience's life began with Dean. But that's why it's this nice, it's way more complicated than that, guys. And sometimes you F up, and sometimes your husband comes back to save you after you robbed a grocery store and puts up with you.
Yeah.
Throwing around with a, you know, local gang guy.
Life is long. I do feel this. I do feel, and I guess it's a twist if you think about how television is presented, but it's not a twist in terms of real life. Because what I found is you're asking the question at a certain point, because she's so desperate at the point of entry into the series. Desperate. Things are bad. And we know stuff even that she doesn't know about how bad it is. But you're kind of like, when you ask, what are these people doing together? And I think that they've done a very good job of reminding the audience that, like I said, that whatever you expect on TV, it is not related to real life, that real marriages have complexity like that. But I also feel like, I mean, she's an extraordinary, we talked about fantasy, she's an extraordinary circumstances. I think he reacts very frequently the way the audience reacts to her behavior, where he's like, what? That they may hate that also, because they're like, don't you know what she has to do? Don't you know what she has to deal with? And I think if your spouse came home, you'd be like, I'm not hiding this gun.
Yeah. And then so there's moments where he's just like, I don't want to look at it. I can't see it. And then there's sometimes where he's just flat out impressed.
Yeah. He is.
Badass gangster.
Yeah.
And there's like the reality of like seeing her be good at it and handle stuff that's like,
she's his fantasy self. I do think that. And I do think couples are sometimes based on that. Like, you have the qualities I don't have in real life, not just in like, you know, I don't like, you know, asking for directions. If I roll down the window, will you do it? Yeah.
They're a team. They're definitely a team.
But I want to go back to you for a second, just to like, can you talk about this sort of genesis of how you ended up in this profession, how you even discovered it?
Well, the profession part came later, but I knew that I started dancing at a very, very young age. I knew I liked performing. I knew I liked I liked working hard, even when I was little, about getting something just right, just perfect, but also that it would please someone, make it, you know, it would be entertaining. And I moved around a lot. So my mom, when we moved to Idaho from Portland, Oregon, she just thought, how am I going to get my kids involved in the community? That's not just school, and how do I get my kids friends? And found a community theater and said, you guys are going to audition for this Christmas play. and you have to sing a song and we're going to go do it. And we did, and we made friends, and it was my happiest place. It was called Junior Musical Playhouse. It was Jump Company, and it was a kids theater group, and we did musicals and variety shows and stuff. We never did straight plays. It was a musical thing.
How could you told me that you couldn't sing when I asked you? I didn't know this. And I asked him if he could sing. I mean, I had this with Slattery too. He goes, I can sing, but I can't sing if you've been around Broadway people, I can't sing like them. And I was like, no, I asked if you could sing, because some people really can't, but you really can.
I can stay on tune. Listen, I did it at Lincoln Center. I put my butt up there.
I know. That was later. I thought that made me even angrier. I'm like, well, I mean, you did sing on the show, but I remember asking, you're like, I don't really sing. I was like, do you play the piano? And you're like, no, I play the accordion a little bit. And I'm like, what? But anyway, go ahead. So you got into this kids theater.
Got into the kids theater, and then we moved from Idaho to Virginia. And so I went, I was entering high school. It was the first time you could have an elective. You could choose something besides, history and math and all that. And my brother had been in theater, and I obviously had come from it. And it was cool in the town that I was from. And in Twin Falls, Idaho, it was like you were a mini celebrity. You had to go to the community college to see us put on Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. It was cool. And in Virginia, it was not cool at all.
Really?
It was like the Heathers High School. I mean, it was really brutal, and it was all about sports and cheerleaders. And if you were not that, it was, you didn't eat in the cafeteria. But I remember auditioning for All My Sons as a freshman, and it was like I got one of the leads, and it was a big deal because I was a freshman, and all the seniors were like, who's this new kid? And I thought, oh, I think I'm quite good. Like I might be good at this. And I
really enjoyed getting that part and making them upset.
Well, I didn't want to make anyone upset. I wanted friends.
No, I know you want friends, but there is a competitiveness to being an actor. I don't think anyone, not just it is, I think the two things people don't understand about that profession is it's hardcore competition, like athletic, kind of like Nancy Kerrigan level intensity, Tanya Harding sort of like I want this thing. And then all the work that goes on at home is not memorizing lines. It's bringing in all of, like you said, like I don't think people realize there's a checklist like that. So did you have teachers at this point who are starting to explain these? Forget about auditioning. Did you have directors?
I had a drama teacher who was incredibly supportive, but he came from like the stage combat, stage manager side. He was much more into like getting the gadgets and the stuff from backstage and the lighting and less performance based. But I had I'd only been in this kids group where we were doing musicals. So I was actually acting for the first time and memorizing lines, but also like emoting and crying and having to make another human exist. It was the first time I was pulling a character out and saying words that weren't my own and attaching emotion. As rudimentary as that sounds, it's a lot to, and it just felt invigorating. Like I find myself getting choked up right now, and I can only kind of remember the feeling, but I think it still exists when you have a good day at work and you finally get that scene and you're like, that was it. I did what I came to do. Sometimes you don't get there.
You're not thinking when you get to that place. It's a lot of preparation so that you can just sort of basically jump hurdles.
I was saying to someone recently that my very first series, I had done television commercials and I had done music videos and things enough to know kind of how to hit a mark, but not a lot more than that. And on my first series, I went to the camera operator and I said, I'm Christina. Hi. I know nothing. I'm not going to pretend to know it because that'll frustrate you. It'll frustrate everyone around me. It'll frustrate me. So if you could just slyly on the side, explain to me where to go and why, I'd be so grateful. And he was so lovely, Harvey. He was so lovely and wonderful. And I learned so much. And like you said, you want to learn the technical stuff so well that you don't have to think about it, so that you can be creative and you can be emotional, because the other stuff is on autopilot. But if you haven't done the homework and you don't really know what you're talking about, and you really don't know what those words mean that you're saying, you're going to get caught up on the day because you didn't do the homework.
Do you, when you get a script, I'm asking a leading question here because I kind of know the answer to it because we've talked about it, but you see things in 3 dimensions once you're rehearsing it. You see the space, the set may be different when you get there, but you see the people coming towards you. Even if someone terrible, Matt Weiner, is reading with you or something like that, you are imagining how you would respond. You're basically creating this without the set, the camera, all these other things when you are working on it. And you're actually seeing where you are, whether you're walking up the steps or looking out at the city. True?
True. I am guilty of sometimes not reading, not with you because I know how specific it is, but I am sometimes guilty of not reading stage direction in between my lines as detailed as I should, because sometimes I'm just so caught up in the dialogue and the interactions between the characters that I will see it, and I will see the conversation, and I see how it happens. And then I get on set and director says, "Oh, okay, you come here and you come here." And then I go, "Huh." And I look down at the page and I go, "Yeah, it's right there."
Well, there's a weird thing. I don't want to sound defensive about this, but I don't think anyone ever gave me credit for the fact that I was learning how to do my job. I was less experienced than all of you at my job when we started the show.
Oh, it should.
Well, I mean,
I taught you everything you know.
I thought that these physical specifications, number one, I had to pass it through a director, so there's a lack of control there, and I wanted it to be the way I wanted it to be. And I felt that I don't like to underline words. I don't like to give physical line readings in the typing. I will do it in person, obviously. And I told you, Edie Falco was like the best. I was like, I don't. She goes, "How do you want me to say it?" And I was like, I don't want to give you a line reading. She goes, "I am not threatened by your performance."
I agree. I don't mind line readings either, actually.
But so a line reading, just in case people don't know it, that's when you actually say exactly how you want it to sound. And I dictate the script, so I do have a musical concept of what things are. On the other hand, I didn't know how much I was limiting people and how constraining it would feel. And until I was actually directing the finale of the first season, the carousel episode, and I was saying, "Put your teacup down," or maybe I was on the set earlier in that, and you're like, I got to put the cup down where I want to put it down. And really all I wanted to do is, I had been in the editing room already. I was like, I just wanted it to match. I was like, please just put it down in the same place. And also, sometimes you're trying to orchestrate a rhythm for a person so that they will stop in places, so that it will be meaningful, so they don't have to say, "I'm thinking." And when you have, as it became more collaborative in every single way, and quite frankly, I just watched more film and more film of you acting, I started to physically have no issues about how to portray what Joan was doing or anybody was doing, and you guys would just get the code. But I would love to have written without stage directions. Julian Fellows, I met him and I saw one of these scripts that doesn't even say what room they're in some of these things, and it was all left to the director and what happened to me, and this is really weird, but that's why I was asking about seeing it this way, because when I write, I see it from the character's point of view. And then when I go and direct, I realize every time I would get the dailies back, everybody was on the wrong side of the room. Everything was flipped. I was seeing it like the actors.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was like, be mad. I was like, he's supposed to cut. I was like, when we were on the Romanovs, by that time, the script had been done so much earlier that I literally would approach it just where we were and just say, we had no idea what country we're going to be in, what space you're going to be in. And then you get this moment where you come out and I feel this on Good Girls too, especially, where I feel like you I can feel when you're in a new space. I can feel the character can be in a new space. You take it in.
Oh,
you
yeah.
take it in. If you I mean, I've seen you walk into scenes in someone else's office in a dangerous place. I don't know if it says in the script she looks around and she's uncomfortable, but I always feel that. And I always wonder, is that something that you figured out at home?
Well, that's one thing, you were talking about, you have to do the homework. You have to prepare. And what a lot of people don't realize is, and so, yes, you have to know everything before you show up. But one of my greatest joys is to be present in the moment for the character. So if I really do they always, say like 90% of acting is listening, or what. I love to know what I think I'm going to do, but roll with the punches when I get there, because I will never know what someone else is going to do. I can guess because I've worked with them for many years, but they always surprise me with something interesting. So if the room is different, if the experience is different, and sometimes I'll do a take and go, wait a minute, or we'll rehearse and you rehearse and you're in a library, let's say, and you think you know the scene, and then you go halfway through, wait a minute, how many other people are going to be in this room when we actually are there going to be background? Because that's going to completely affect how I speak to this person. I'm not going to say this loudly when someone's going to walk by, so all those things enrich and I think make the viewing experience more real when you see someone really noticing someone walk by, or you really just saw that painting for the first time in the corner, and you could be having a very, very important conversation that's going to lead you into the next scene with this person. But that doesn't mean that a waitress didn't walk by with a great looking piece of pie, and I love all that stuff, and it's interesting hearing you talk about the stage direction in that way, because I think, especially you and I spoke about this at one point, you kept writing, Joan picks up teacup, Joan puts down teacup, Joan sniffs, Joan. And I called you and I was like, is Joan sick? And what are you talking about? And I was like, she is drinking so much tea this season. And it's so specific about when she takes a sip and when she puts it down that I thought this must be leading into some horrible thing where Joan needs tea. And you were like, no, I just want to make sure you pick it up and put it down at the right spot.
I honestly, I have to say the greatest naive experience, and I've apologized to you for this already, and I think I've apologized to everyone on the show about this, is that I did not know how much people were living, and actors, human beings, were living with fear of losing their job because something would happen to their character. And the idea of that soap dish thing that you have a sniffle on page 9 and you're going to be dead by the end of the season, it never occurred to me. You remember the season where Joan was leaving the office and they had the big farewell party, and you were terrified. And I had the one scene where Pete ran into you and Von Witt Teller, where I was like, you're going to come in at the moment, and you really didn't believe me.
No, I was scared.
But I was like, what are you talking about? On the other hand, I would admit this, is that sometimes I don't even, they are real people to me. I remember Jessica Paré, the last season, she goes, oh no, it was Linda Cardellini after the episode where she and Don were seen by Sally. She goes, I guess this is it. And I was like, no, you're gonna, and everyone looked at me like, no, that's it. And I was like, what? Oh.
You're like, oh,
I mean, and they're real people to me. She's still living in the building. Dawn didn't move. She didn't kill herself, but it didn't occur to me that wasn't going to be there. I want to fast forward a little bit here. So you like acting. You have this reaction. You have someone who encourages you. There's a little bit of intellectual stuff going on there, and you're starting to see that you might be better at it than other people simply because they chose you for something. They cast you, but you end up in modeling next, correct?
Yes. So I was in high school in Fairfax, Virginia, and sort of the most well-known school for acting in Virginia would be Virginia Commonwealth University, VCU. And my brother was already going there, and a lot of people I knew who were older than me would graduate and go to their theater program there, or their drama department, or filmmaking. And so I pre-auditioned when I was a sophomore to get into VCU, and I was accepted. So I knew that I had an opening at a college that would take me. But a lot of my friends were older, and I sort of saw them, all right, I'm going down to VCU. And I was like, oh, this is nothing's going on at VCU. I mean, it might be a great program, but like no one's going off to do it as a career. And I was working at a hair salon as a shampoo girl and as a receptionist. And my mom had seen, it was 17 magazine, like a contest to be on the cover of 17 magazine. Now I was like goth and mod and all variations of punk and stuff at the time. So I'm not really sure why my mom thought I could do this. Maybe she was trying to like turn me back into a normal looking gal, but
you had like razor cut and like streaks.
I had like the shaved at the back and then black hair, and then I had bright red hair, and I had like a purple pixie. Like it was, all sorts of things. I worked in a hair salon too, so it was convenient. So a friend of mine knew a photographer who used to go to the record and tape exchange, got his card for me. I said, hey, can you take some photos of me? I want to enter this contest. He was like, who are you? What? Huh? Like, you can't just, and he said, well, okay, meet me at this bagel store and bring any photos you have. I think he thought I had like a headshot or something. And I came with like a prom photo and like me and my mom camping. He was like, oh, okay. So we went out and took some pictures one day, and he happened to work for like the sort of only successful photography duo in Virginia. There was this husband-wife team, and they sort of took me under their wings, and I started doing like wedding magazines, Elegant Bride and Macy's lingerie and stuff like that, and enough to get a little portfolio together. And at this point, I had to make the decision to either go to VCU and study acting further, or I got accepted, or someone wanted to represent me as a model in New York, a modeling agency. And in my head, I just thought, I feel like it'd be stupid to not go see what this is about. Like, move to New York City where there's Broadway. And it wasn't even as clear that it wasn't a plan. It was sort of like, I would be a complete idiot if someone said, do you want to move to New York and maybe to Europe, and we're going to pay you to take your picture and you get to dress up in things and basically act. It just seemed like a no-brainer. Terrifying, but a no-brainer. I could always come home if I needed to come home.
And I also I'm going to go back and just project this, but I'm pretty sure this is true. You had moved a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea, this is not like a country mouse who's like, I wonder what the big city is like. You had literally probably lived, from what I can tell, in 6 different places, and maybe even different places within those places.
I think probably more like 4.
Like 4, but even individual homes within that. You told me some, maybe not, maybe I'm wrong.
Kind of one, like from city to city, state to state, but
10 years.
Still oddly was like still the kind of the country mouse though. Cause even in Fairfax, Virginia, I was still from Twin Falls, Idaho. I was always from like the smaller place.
Right. But you weren't scared of starting over.
I was terrified.
Really?
I was terrified. I was more scared to lose an opportunity. That was scarier. It was scarier to me to have lost something and never be able to get it back, and always look back and go, why didn't I at least try it? Then try it, fail, and come home,
Did you know someone who had a lot of regrets?
That's a good question. No, I don't think so.
It's just an interesting thing to wonder, like, how you know. because I take risks also. I took some crazy career risks, and there's that whole thing where, do you know how to do this? And you just say yes, and you don't. I've done a lot of that in my life. And sometimes you get caught not knowing how to do it. And it's never as bad as you think it's going to be, unless you Xerox a script upside down every other page. But seriously, I was that PA where they were just like, are you kidding me? Like, seriously. Like, why did you say you knew how to work this machine? But you're brave.
Well, I think I romanticized being on stage, and I romanticized really, really hard work. I studied ballet from maybe the age of 7 until 18, very, really, really intensely. Mm-hmm. And when you're in Idaho and Virginia and you don't have New York City Ballet or the Joffrey or something to go study with, you get to the level you can in your town and in your space. And when you can't get beyond that, you watch ballet documentaries and you buy every Gelsey Kirkland book and you hang up the pictures of the tattered ballet shoes and the worn out leg warmers and the bloody toes. And it's like the harder you work, the more passionate, the more committed you are. And my favorite movie was Fame. And it was like I was building up this thing and that I was this artist or something in my head without anyone in my family or anyone. It was like I was creating this world mm-hmm. that I had sort of decided I was a poet and a ballerina, and I was going to struggle on the streets of New York. And even though I was just going to model, maybe I've been much more theatrical my whole life than, the idea of fantasy or imagination.
I feel like this is always like a service for people who people who watch this, some of them are fans of the show and some of them want to do what you want to do. And I think that it's kind of a secret a lot of times, a lot of this stuff. The struggle is a secret because it's kind of, there's always shame associated with it and everyone want to act like I walked into the room and got the first job and, I always wanted to do this. But I think that there's something valuable to saying like you were prepared to live for some period of time in that state of struggle, as if that were the end itself.
It was that to me was quite glamorous.
Right. It wasn't like, I'll struggle for a little bit and I have a deadline.
Oh no, I never thought that there was never a plan or like an end result. To me, it was always I'm doing it.
Right.
My dad, whether I was a model or whether it was the beginning of my success on shows that were less popular or whatever, he'd go, "You're almost there." And I'd go, "Where? I'm here. I'm living it. I'm doing it. This is I'm having the time of my life. I am here." And maybe he's never been here for him or something, but to me, I was getting here again, and it's so fun.
It can be accidentally inspiring by saying that kind of stuff. My parents, when I got my job on The Sopranos, it was like I've been working for 10 years, and my dad said, "You're finally on a show we watch." It was like, you don't watch my other shows? You know what? I'm on network TV. Like, I've been working for 8 years.
I know. You can never.
And then he's like, can you still work on your own stuff? And I'm like, I'm on The Sopranos. This is like I'm on the Yankees. Don't ask me if I'm going to start my own baseball team.
I know. Until you're in a crossword puzzle, they don't care. But I do say to people, like you said, the people who are watching this, some people want to be in this business and you have to do it because you love the process of it. You have to be okay with auditioning. You have to be okay with rejection, because anyone who's like, I want to be a successful blah, blah, blah. There's no sure way for this. Every time you start a new project, it's like starting over. You have to love it.
And was your mind blown when you first had your first job after knowing about acting and understanding acting, where you were saying lines and being paid to show up to do them?
I couldn't believe it. My first real gig as an actress was on MTV Undressed. And I was saying lines and acting with other actors and walking into fake rooms that were supposed to look like, I mean, it was so exciting, so thrilling. And I still am like, at the end of some days go, I have such a weird job. It's so weird. I just went and played make-believe all day. But what's even weirder is that I take it so seriously that I'm sitting here, you know, acting like a complete weirdo and on set, but I take it so seriously.
Every actor in the end will say to you, it's very embarrassing. I think the most interesting thing to me is every single person on the set and at every chain, every piece of the chain, the executives, everyone has gotten their entree probably from playing a part in a play in school. And so acting, all the other jobs are kind of extra, you know, you're saying tech or what else. You're like, I know there's all this other stuff, but that is the focus of what it is. So they all sort of think they know what it is. And there's something, honestly, all I was going to say is, I feel, especially in Beth, this person that you just described, I feel like from the minute she has her first win, there is I didn't know I could do that. There's a reality. I felt the woman's, I mean, you played some very glamorous people, and people assume glamorous people don't have any problems. And we kind of look to that when we're watching entertainment to not see any problems, right? Here's the white telephone. When's the car coming around? Even Joan, when she would, you know, have her problems, it would always sort of be like, well, Joan's not going to have a problem. You know, the guy got his foot cut off. And then lawnmower, Joan's like, go get a tourniquet. You remember that? You're like, of course Joan knows how to do that. Joan's got no problem. I was a nurse or whatever. But I feel this in Beth, and I feel it in the show in general. I don't feel it's typically a condescension towards what is relatable or identifiable. And this is what I was saying about money too. I feel people who have struggled, and I feel when things work out, and I feel when they're out of their element, and I feel them assimilating it. I felt her become a criminal. Not that she always was, but I feel like she's not shoplifting anymore. She's kind of like, this is so much easier than what I was doing, which is what I think is the essential reality of criminality. I don't care how forced you are into it. In the end, it's easier than working. Just like cheating. In the end, easier.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that, you know, all the internalizing and all the, you know, trying to understand it's funny. I sort of walk around with my scripts. I've done this on everything, that someone will think, oh, she's not working on it yet. I'm just walking around with it. But if the script is in the same room with me, I'm working on it. I can't be having a conversation with you, sharing a glass of wine or something, but in the back of my head, I'm thinking about what she's going to do with this next scene, you know, like, and sometimes it is those aha moments that you see on television or film where you see a character go, ding, like the closer or something, where she's all of a sudden like, I've got an idea. Sometimes I'll be talking to you and you'll say something that I'm like, oh, that was just the light bulb that I needed for my scene tomorrow. That's going to inform that, you know, you have to constantly be listening.
That's just saying, you know, you're saying that you go into the town, and are you going to be a bad girl in this town? Are you going to be the nerd in this town? How do you find your way into it? And nobody knows but you. And you can come home and your mom says, how was the new school? And you're like, well, this one, I'm a badass, it turns out. And the last time I was a wallflower, you know, maybe this week. I just want to say, just in conclusion, like, I think you're doing incredible work.
Thank you.
I think that you are, to be as pretentious as possible, I think that you have used what I know to be you so exquisitely in this show. I feel the relationships, I feel the openness, I feel the challenges, I feel you know, I never worry what you look like when you're really in love. I've seen you play it, but I know how real it is. And there is an authenticity. Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want to cast you in their show? You're gorgeous, you're identifiable, you have an incredible voice, by the way, which I was going to ask you about, but I think we ran out of time. You must have had someone told you, forget about singing, someone told you how good your voice was early on. You have an incredible, resonant, melodic, and like most great actors, it's got a lot of places that it goes that people can't mimic you that easy. I mean, maybe Jim Carrey could, I don't know. But anyway, and so I just want to say, like, I see you get on your show, and there is no glamour on this show. This show is not even a TV version of it. These people don't have enough money. They're not in good relationships. I love this because drama is conflict, and I know no matter what the audience says, nobody wants to watch a bunch of happy people. That's not entertaining. They want to see themselves. But I feel a non-condescending reality. It's not like this is how real people act. I feel the reality in there, and a lot of it's great writing. A lot of it is, great directing. But I really feel like you are at the top of your game. And you should always be recognized for that. I think the success of the show is often viewed as recognition for that, but have someone who was lucky enough to work with you and never see you didn't get better. You were exactly like that when I met you. Joan, we got to know Joan better. I remember you asking me, like, where is Joan from? And I was like, I'll get right back to you. I hope somebody knows. And I was like, where is Joan from? I mean, we were 4 seasons in. Joan has a mom. Good to know. Good to know. We just never happened to see her on the phone. So
I am honored that you would say those things. I learned so much from you and from working with you, and that experience, that for you to say these things is a great honor. And for you to do this with me today, I was very, very proud.
You're what? Well, I appreciate it, and that's very kind. I just, as a colleague, this is not, I get to say, there's very few people that I've worked with that I wouldn't want to work with again. I've been super lucky to be able to choose the people that I work with, actors. That's part of what casting is. And when you see people just go on and just keep staying, just engaging with the audience, engaging with the material, elevating, not that it's low or anything, but elevating everything they do with a level of reality. It's not always something that gets recognition because it looks easy. It's not as showy. There's not as much screaming. There's not as much emoting. I don't vote in your category, so I have no responsibility. I like your style, and you continue to do it. And I'm really congratulations on. I mean, we don't know yet if there's more yet, but what year is this?
Standing by.
Yeah. The money will decide that. That has nothing to do with us.
It has nothing to do with us.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.